Hi there, my name is Stella O'Malley and I'm a psychotherapist based in Offaly. And this presentation is very dear to my heart because it's about building self confidence in children. And some children, it seems, they almost come out of the womb with a lack of confidence, an unsureness, a hesitancy about them. And it can often mean that they're very empathic, they're very kind to people, they're sensitive. It's not necessarily a bad trait, but if it becomes too underconfident, yeah, parents can step in and make their way in making sure that they can help their child perhaps perhaps come a little bit more confident, or certainly a feeling of competency. And so when you assess confidence, it's about their ability to assess and evaluate their worth in the world in any given any given situation, that they're good enough, and that good enough is good enough, and that they have some sort of sense of autonomy in the world, that they can do things. And for example, the locus of control, somebody with an internal locus of control will generally have some confidence in themselves because they feel that they can sway their life. They will think, I control my life. So they can feel that they're in charge of their ship. While somebody with an external locus of control generally thinks either the government or mommy and daddy or the boss or the mortgage controls their destiny, and there's nothing they can do about their life because it's all up to somebody up there, God or superstition. There's lots of different things that they will blame so that they don't feel that they're in control of of their destiny. What parents of underconfident children would be trying to do is trying to build a sense of control, a locus of control in their children. So a child with an internal locus control, you might give yourself a year or two. It won't come quickly to build this in a child, but you're trying to give them a sense of, look what I can do. I can make things happen. I can determine my future. So you might give them a sense of accomplishment. And how you do that is you leave them alone when they're doing something, and you don't jump in with loads of, oh, this would make this picture better. Oh, you should stack the dishwasher this way or that way. Oh, you should do it this way and it would look really pretty. Yeah, it probably would, but you're probably 30 years or 40 years older than them, so you would know that. Better that they have a sense of accomplishment of their own, that they did it on their own. They figured it out, just like you had to patiently bite your lip and allow them to figure out how to slowly tie their lace. You're trying to let them slowly figure out what they can do, and they'll build a self confidence around that. The more you intrude upon that and give them suggestions about how they could do it better, the less likely they'll have confidence, but the more likely they'll achieve. They will achieve much more in the short term, but not in the long term. Because in the long term, they'll always look to others for who can do it better, and they won't have a sense of accomplishment. If you want the quick fix, tell them what to do and how to make it better. You want the long term, genuine sense of confidence, you let them figure it out slowly but surely on their own. And it's very hard and it does take time. Somebody with an external locus of control says things like, why bother? There's nothing I can do. Why does everything happen to me? They're blaming other people when something happens because they honestly think they have no control of their own destiny. So when you're trying to build an internal locus of control, you figure out what you control. You try to figure out, what can your child control in their life? They control their eating, and an awful lot of children who feel over controlled, close their mouth, they stop eating so that they can get some sense of control in their life. So what other options do they have control? Maybe when they go to the playground, you could say, it's my job to bring you to the playground. It's your job to enjoy yourself. Or whenever any given situation happens, you say, it's your job to have fun. It's my job to bring you, to keep you safe. And so you give them some sort of locus of control, some sort of feeling of, yeah, I have control over this. Maybe if they're maybe over kind of dominated by an older brother or an older sister, you make sure that they have the control to leave the room, to go upstairs if they're feeling over controlled. Identify the goals and divide them into steps. So you try to figure out one or two achievable steps with your child that would make them feel happier. For example, they mightn't be used to talking to adults. And so you might slowly but subtly start teaching them how to speak with adults, so that when they come into the room, they have to say hello to whoever's in the room rather than ducking behind your skirts. Or perhaps when you're in a cafe and you're ordering, you could say, well, what drink did you want? Even if you knew what drink they wanted, so that they have to say what drink they wanted if they want it. Or you could send them gently, like if they can't say it, you might say it for them. But you will ask the next time, and you will ask the next time, and you continuously ask so that they gently realize that they need to speak up for themselves. A nice strategy can be to give them some money and ask them to go in and buy a treat in the shop. They want the treat, so they might buy it. And you stand up outside because you're doing something, maybe outside the shop. Again, trying to give them the confidence and the experience, because experience begets confidence. So they need to learn to have done it a few times before they feel confident. And they will feel very proud of themselves when they've done it. Practice self-compassion and self-encouragement. You can model that you make sure that the talk, that they don't give in to dark talk, they don't say mean things to themselves. Instead, they're quite compassionate and quite encouraging. And if they aren't, you teach them. You say, let's be friends with ourselves. Like, let's make this year the year that we're quite nice in the way we talk to each other, and we don't practice dark talk towards ourselves. Instead, we practice self-compassion and self-encouragement. That can be really powerful in a family when you watch the criticism, the self-criticism that takes place for the whole family, because it's not as if they licked it off the stones. And then the last point, identify where you need extra support. So like I said earlier, your child might need extra support with their overbearing big brother or big sister, and they might need to learn some tips around that. And how do they ask for help? How do they get out of the situation if they're feeling over controlled? What should they do? And you give them some tips and you teach them, you're guiding them. The parents are the project manager. We're setting the tone here. And if one child is underconfident, the other child is overconfident, it's your job to kind of manage that in as much as you can. You can't kind of overdo it and you can't do everything, but you do have to manage it a little bit so that the underconfident child doesn't get totally subsumed, because that can happen very often in families. And some parents just think there's nothing I can do. And there is. You can help out the less confident child. This is the classic external locus of control, where he says, if anything bad happens, it's not my fault, it's fate. That's somebody who's given up any idea that they have control of their life. And that's not what we're trying to nurture in self-confident children. Instead, we're trying to nurture a sense of, um, I can make a difference to my life. And you might teach them, little kind of feats of accomplishment creates a great sense of confidence. So get them to do things regularly, maybe walk to school on their own, go into a shop on their own, anything like that, anything that they can learn to do on their own, just like the confidence they got when they first learned to ride a bike. It's very important. And you could say, well, they stayed very nervous. Well, the more experience they would have cycling, the more likely they will become confident. Experience begets confidence, and it's something that we really need to be very aware of. And competence begets confidence. So when somebody becomes competent at something, they feel confident in it. And so you try to find things that your child feels competent at, and they will naturally, confidence will come. One thing that's very interesting is the growth mindset and the fixed mindset. Carol Dweck is a psychology professor in Stanford, and she made it her life's work to study, why do some people with great potential go to great heights? And why do other people with equally great potential go to a certain level of height and then they choke? And nobody's sure why, but it's generally in their late teens and 20s. And what is the difference with these people? And what Carol Dweck found out was that actually it was a mindset. It was very much down to her mindset. And she wrote a great book called Mindset as a result. And so this is very much centered on Carol Dweck's work, where she said in a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work, and brains and talent are just the starting point. While in a fixed mindset, people believe that their basic qualities, like their intelligence or their talent, are fixed traits, and their energy is spent reinforcing these fixed opinions of themselves. So somebody might think that they're very sporty and they're useless at school. Somebody with a growth mindset will think, okay, I'm very sporty, but I need to work at it. And I'll always work at it because, I'll always be challenged. And I better work a little bit at school because, you can always improve. Somebody with a fixed mindset would have a very different opinion. They would say, okay, I'm good at sport, I'm bad at school. Forget about school. That's pointless. Now, I'm good at sport and I have to put in all my energy in making sure that everybody thinks I'm good at sport and defending that position. And the day that they choke, the day that they fail, maybe they get dropped out of a team, maybe they miss an important point, they do something wrong. That is the day that their entire kind of house of cards collapses because they think, I'm not as good as I thought I was. Oh God. And that's when they choke. And it can come often in their late teens because as you get older, the competition gets stiffer. And so they might be very good and might be brilliant at 8 and 12. By the time that they're 16, it might be getting harder. And again, when they're 10 to 20. So somebody with a growth mindset will say, I didn't pass the test, but I know what I need to do and I know where I need to improve and I'll do better the next time. And somebody with a fixed mindset will blame. They'll blame. They won't take the responsibility. I didn't pass the test because I was busy doing my other homework, because my teacher didn't cover the course, because my memory is rubbish, because my mother didn't buy the right book. And they will blame rather than take responsibility. And it's our job to bring it back to their responsibility. And that won't be done easily. And I know people will be listening going, oh my God, they've got a fixed mindset. They're completely. Fear of failure is a very common issue among children these days. So play around with it so that if they have a fixed mindset, you've got years to work with them so that they learn the possibility of a growth mindset. It doesn't happen easy. This isn't an overnight job. But when you see a child with a fear of failure, make sure that you call it. Make sure that you explain the concept of a fear of failure and how much damage it does to people so that they can feel better around it. Carol, this is the quote from Carol Dweck. Parents want to give their children a gift. The best thing they can do is teach their children to love challenges, to be intrigued by mistakes, to enjoy effort, and to keep on learning. That way, their children don't have to be slaves of praise. They will have a lifelong way to build and repair their own confidence. And slaves of praise and fear of failure are huge issues for people who have lack of confidence. So if your child is constantly looking for praise and compliments, look at my cartwheel, what's this cartwheel like? Do you like this cartwheel? Look at my picture. What do you think of this picture? What do you think of that picture? If you're continuously giving praise to your child, they become a slave to it. They become dependent and addicted to it. And sometimes you need to give a child confidence rather than always giving them the praise. Start to let them to self-praise. Start to let them to learn to how to self-evaluate their work. So you could say, well, you tell me what you think of your picture, and then I'll tell you. And just to get a praise off you, they might say it's terrible, it's awful, my picture's awful, just so you give them praise. And you could say, really? Is it awful? And you make them examine the picture and evaluate the picture so that they learn how to self-evaluate, so that one day they can come in and say, I played very well and I know I did. There's nothing more profoundly satisfying in life than feeling like I nailed it. I did well. I know I did well. And that gives confidence. So you giving your child external confidence by giving them external praise. It's nice in the moment. It's like giving chocolate. Yeah, it definitely has its place. However, learning to give praise to yourself, learning to realize that you are good enough and your work was good, that is a gift for life. And you do it by teaching them how to self-evaluate. And it doesn't come easily and it doesn't come quickly. And it's a long project. But you're saying, well, what did you think of the cartwheel? Well, oh, did you really think it was bad? Oh, I thought your legs were very straight. And so you actually get into an analysis and they don't want that. They'll say, give me the praise and give it to me quick. No interest in that sort of thing because they're slaves of praise and they're often afraid of failure. And that's where you play around with failure. You might say, whoever's happiest today gets a prize. I don't want to know whether you won the match. I don't want to know the score of your test. I want to know, did you enjoy the challenge? And if you enjoyed the challenge, we'll go for a treat. And so you're completely turning on its head what is failure, what is success, because you've changed the goalposts. And that in a way teaches them a kind of a control over, well, who says it's failure and who says it's success? It's really your own internal evaluation that tells you whether something is good or bad or whether it's been a good situation or not. A nice thing for kids to remember is the power of yet. I don't get it. I can't do it. This doesn't work. We've heard it all. And then you take a deep breath. You teach them to take a breath, go for a walk and add yet, as in, I don't get it yet. I can't do it yet. This doesn't work yet. And so they learn the concept of keep trying, give it a go, keep trying, and it'll come. You can see very often, like when you look at kind of Carol Dweck's work, you'll realize that as Bill Gates, anybody who's had great success in life will generally have a growth mindset. And he shows a classic example of a growth mindset here, where he says, it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. And that's where you try to teach your children how to heed the lessons of failure. Take failure full on. It's okay to fail. It's perfectly okay to fail. Are you learning? Are you learning off it? And did you manage to knock some fun out of it? And does it really matter anyway? And are you improving? And you loosen things up. They might want a tight, it's all a disaster, I failed. And you're trying to widen their scope a little bit. More than anything, just to finish off, if your child is upset, if your child feels desolate about something, don't forget it's not necessarily about telling them that they're great. And it's not necessarily telling them that they won when they didn't win, or that they really are the best even when they aren't the best. What really makes a difference, as Brene Brown says here, the truth is rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection. Now, if your child is desperately sad because they didn't win a competition or they didn't do what they thought they would do, don't forget that if you can just connect with them on a deeper level where you think that's really hard, come here to me, give me a hug, that's really hard, that should be enough, rather than tell them that they're brilliant, because that doesn't make them feel confident, make them feel that they should be brilliant. I hope you got some strategies out of that and you benefited from the talk. Thank you very much.